Good afternoon. Great to have you here. I'm Dustin Grove alongside Felicia Lawrence. Good to be with you as always.
As always, thank you. And thank you for joining us at 13 News at 4. So we are going to get to our headline stories in just a moment.
But first, are you ready for some football?
Yes.
This is
Are
where
you ready for some football?
it's all going down tonight. Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia. The Eagles set to take on the Cowboys in the NFL season opener. Boy, what an opener, too.
It's already here.
It is here. We have arrived. We're going to have more on the longtime NFC East rivalry ahead this hour. But we begin here at 4 o'clock in central Indiana and more cuts impacting childcare. This afternoon, state leaders announced they are cutting reimbursement rates on the state's voucher program for childcare providers.
Yeah, this is a tough one. We're all parents. We get it. Ashton Hackman explains what this exactly means for Hoosier families and has a reaction from some Indiana Democrats.
Thursday's announcement by Indiana FSSA comes as Hoosier families and educators started a new school year already facing cuts by state leaders. The state agency overseeing childcare in Indiana says they are facing a financial shortfall if they don't take action, claiming the previous administration used temporary COVID funds in an unsustainable way, slashing current voucher rates for childcare providers by double digits. For infants under 1, voucher rates will see a 10% cut. The same goes for toddlers 13 to 36 months old. Vouchers for preschoolers will take a 15% cut, and vouchers for K through 12 taking the biggest hit, dropping 35%. Indiana Democrats worry the cuts will force childcare providers to feel the squeeze, resulting in fewer or no programs for lower-income families.
I have heard from both families and childcare providers that this latest cut is detrimental to being able to provide what's already strained.
But FSSA says the cuts will allow providers to help the same number of children, something Democrats disagree with.
It is a short-term solution with long-term impacts for the state of Indiana.
FSSA has not responded to our requests for comment. Ahead at 5, you'll hear how an Indianapolis child care provider is reacting to the cuts. Reporting outside the State House, Ashton Hackman, 13 News.
Thank you, Ashton. And we have reached out to Indiana House and Senate Republicans for comment. We have not heard back. And in other news, a Central Indiana Township Fire Department is trying to reduce the number of emergency runs that crews go on. They're taking on an approach they say is more proactive instead of reactive.
And this is an approach more communities have taken in the past couple of years. 13 News reporter Emily Longnecker is on that story this afternoon. She joins us with how it works.
This summer, Pike Township joined a growing list of communities across Indiana that have started community resource paramedic programs. Now, we talked to members of the Pike Township Fire Department about why they believe in the long run it will cut down on the number of 911 calls that the fire department goes on and ultimately save the fire department money.
They look way better.
Oh, yeah.
It's called Mobile Integrated Health, and right now 68 counties across Indiana are taking that approach to health care through community paramedic programs. Pike Township got their program up and running in June and already have 60 people signed up, not to mention 100 more referrals. The idea is to give people preventative care with regular home visits from a paramedic who can help with all sorts of needs, everything from questions about the medicine someone may be taking to making sure they can get around their home without falling. The idea is to prevent calls to 911 and ambulance runs that often lead to visits to the emergency room, all outcomes that cost more than regular visits from a paramedic to someone's home.
And then when you reduce just 1 or 2 or 3 runs from happening, you get them away from the 911 emergency service, you're making a major impact in your budget.
Right now, funding for the program is coming out of the township's fire department budget and grants from partners in the community. The state's Mobile Integrated Healthcare grant was not funded in the next 2-year budget. But the Indiana Department of Homeland Security that oversees the community paramedic programs is accepting grant applications through the end of the month for 2026 grants that would come out of the state's EMS readiness funds.
Coming up tonight at 6, we're going to introduce you to a Pike Township resident who is already using this program, and he'll explain to you why he thinks this has made all of the difference for him. We're also going to tell you how a referral works to use this program. In Pike Township, Emily Longnecker, 13 News.
Do you accept the fact that 1 million Americans died from COVID?
I don't know how many died.
You're the Secretary of Health and Human Services. You don't have any idea how many Americans died from COVID? I don't think anybody knows that.
Today, Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was in the hot seat as he took sharp questions from the Senate Finance Committee. Democrat senators butted heads with Kennedy over his changes to vaccine recommendations, and some Republican senators also raised concerns.
Karen Kafa has more on today's searing testimony.
Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. defending his decision to fire the director of the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
We need bold, competent, and creative new leadership at CDC. People able and willing to chart a new course.
The hearing before the Senate Finance Committee was scheduled to focus on the Trump administration's 2026 health care agenda. But on the heels of Kennedy's ouster of former CDC Director Susan Monarez, Democrats quickly slammed his leadership and his longtime claims against vaccines and how that undermines public trust.
Sir, you're a charlatan. That's what you are. You're the ones who conflate chronic disease with the need for vaccines.
Two Republican physicians expressing concern about the Trump administration's changes to vaccine policy. John Barrasso of Wyoming saying Kennedy isn't upholding vaccine standards as promised during confirmation.
The public has seen measles outbreaks, leadership in the National Institute of Health questioning the use of mRNA vaccines. Americans don't know who to rely on.
Bill Cassidy of Louisiana critical of new FDA limits on COVID-19 vaccines.
I would say effectively we're denying people vaccine.
Kennedy argued current policy doesn't deny anyone a COVID-19 booster, although it is now state dependent, and he defended his controversial moves to reshape government public health agencies.
If we don't end this chronic disease, we are the sickest country in the world. That's why we have to fire people at CDC. They did not do their job.
On Capitol Hill, I'm Karen Kafa.
And we're getting a closer look at deadly crime numbers here in Indianapolis so far this year.
And based on those numbers from Metro Police, it is down. Let's show you those numbers. From January the 1st through September 1st, IMPD reported 84 murders. That is a 24% decrease from last year.
But we know we have a lot of work left to do, and you can count on IMPD doing our part, not just the rest of this year, but going forward to try to impact violent crime, because it is our #1 priority, reducing violent crime.
Chief Chris Bailey there. Now, these are murders, which IMPD says is the intentional killing of someone. The numbers don't include accidental shootings or self-defense.
All right, let's leave news there. Take a turn to weather, because we are seeing a noticeably cooler day. A cooler Thursday it is.
These mornings are just crisper and cooler, but then, Rob, as the sun comes out, when you're directly in the sun in the afternoon, it feels pretty hot.
That's true.
It's still a pretty strong sun angle. Yeah. We're not quite in fall just yet. The sun's still pretty strong. Average highs are still in the 80s. I think we're going to get back to that in the long-term forecast, looking down the road. But in the short term, if you like this weather, you get more of it. A couple of showers in the forecast, though, that we've got to talk about for tomorrow. They're few and far between, but we will keep them in there. Look at this, 70 degrees right now in Indy, upper 60s for some of you. It is a crisp and cool day. This is about 10 to almost 20 degrees cooler than where we were yesterday at this time, maybe 10 to 15 degrees cooler as that new air mass was ushered in by those thunderstorms that came through last night. Clear skies for the most part, few clouds developing, but really the atmosphere is relatively dry. That's what's allowing all of the blue sky. We'll keep dry forecast in for the rest of this evening. Temperatures very quickly diving out of those 60s into the 50s for tonight. You get another one of those crisp, cool mornings with temperatures in the low to mid 50s for your morning temperatures to start our Friday. Yes, tomorrow's Friday. And there is a chance for showers in the forecast for tomorrow. Now, it's a lower chance. How much of that moisture will be able to make it to the surface? That's what remains to be seen. 74 for a high temperature, but there's also going to be a good bit of variability for tomorrow, where some folks may be closer to 70, some may be a little bit closer to 80. Now, for football tomorrow, Angela and I have really gone back and forth about whether to put raindrops here on these icons. I know it seems like we're splitting hairs, but it is important because I don't want it to be lost that there is that chance we could see a few showers tomorrow. But really, I think cloudy is the best way to describe the evening, but we'll definitely be watching the radar, and you see temperatures there into the 60s. Very comfortable expected for our Friday night football. Well, let's take a look at where we are with traffic. A couple things I want to make you aware of there. First of all, the map, kind of seeing the usual volume pickup, but look at the southwest side. We're starting to see that slowdown on 465 eastbound coming past the airport. Let me take you to a traffic camera. There was a vehicle fire here. You see we have the fire department on the scene, but the right 2 to 3 lanes are blocked. This is going to be as you approach the new Interstate 69 interchange, relatively new interchange, but still have traffic flowing on the left 2 lanes, but that's causing a significant backup that's almost reaching the airport at this point. And as we see more volume pickup, we're going to see more and more of that. Also seeing on Interstate 69, this is at mile marker 227. We're looking at a vehicle off on the shoulder there, still allowing traffic to move by at a pretty decent pace though.